I must tell you, see, you have to live in the time of Bhutto to imagine what charisma meant. There are no charismatic leaders now. The 60s produced many charismatic leaders. You look at the third world leadership, and they're all great charismatic leaders. So Bhutto fitted into that context. And Mr. Bhutto, for all that he said, or all that he told us that he stood for, never declared himself to be a socialist even. You see, his slogan was Islamic socialism.
Mhm.
He started out with socialism, then he felt the religious forces bearing down on him. Now socialism then became Islamic socialism. That is the first step backwards. I'm not going to say that I at once sensed that something was going wrong. No, 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 no. You have to understand Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto to, and appreciate the formation of the PPP. Mr. Bhutto, when he came out of it, was considered to be a progressive. This is 1900 and what? Immediately 66 Tashkent, and thereafter Ayub Khan did not like his attitude towards the United States as also the Western democracy. So Mr. Bhutto then started thinking about leaving the Ayub Khan administration. And I don't have it on record, you see, but he tried to join the National Awami Party. He tried also to, maneuver and the existing leftist parties into a sort of a conglomerate or whatever. He didn't succeed. You see, you have to understand Bhutto's personality also and link it to the creation of the Pakistan People's Party. Now, socialism was a popular slogan at the time. I think Mr. Bhutto was a nationalist, as you say. He was not a socialist. With the benefit of hindsight, I can say Mr. Bhutto was not a socialist. But I think in that age of great charismatic leaders, Bhutto stood out. I tell you, Bhutto stood out because I've seen him on celluloid, attending all those conferences. He stole the show. And then came the 65 war. You see, that is very important for the rise of Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto. That speech he made before the Security Council, you see, and in the presence of a very weak sort of a political leadership in Pakistan, and Ayub Khan also then betraying signs of illness. You see, so many things converged, and Bhutto emerged as the champion of the people. Simultaneously, Mujib-ur had launched his own 6-point separation thing in East Pakistan. So, although the nature of the struggle was different in East Pakistan, there were no ideological, it was purely separatist. And in West Pakistan, Bhutto emerged with this. Although there had been splinter groups, and those splinter groups within the political spectrum were not very receptive of Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto because, he was not a traditionalist. He was, I don't want to say this, but he comes across as somebody who thought that once he comes into power, then he can effect change. He wasn't trying to teach people the limits or the limitlessness of change. That is something which needs to be understood about him. He wanted to be there in the driving seat, in the saddle, and then do things. But that doesn't take anything away from him. See, because, when you evaluate a person, you should not be at liberty to set the standards by which you are going to judge him. No. You judge him by what he has done. He formed a political party. He literally ran away with the election result in West Pakistan. In East Pakistan, he could not have done anything because, you see, simultaneously, the 6-point plan had been put across by Mujib, and in East Pakistan also, the winds of separatism were blowing. So Bhutto could not have, coming from West Pakistan, could not have done much. I have seen him in 1966 of November 66, in the Paltan Maidan, where I was the 14th player of the Pakistan team. I was just coming, and he came there after having been turned out of government. He was accompanied by Maulvi Fareed Ahmad, that Bengali leader. And I tell you, I did not even know him. I'd never even maybe seen him from any closer than 20 yards. But the way the people responded to him, the way they, you know, you see, you understand cricket, you know, at that time, Intikhab Alam was hitting right, left, and center, and he was a big hitter of the ball. You know, there were people, the crowd was absolutely, you know, enthralled and gripped, rising every 2 or 3 minutes, and then all of a sudden it went quiet. So we looked across again, and there I saw Maulvi Fareed Ahmed coming in along with Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto. And in spite of the fact that in the Khawf Alam and whoever was playing with him at the time, they went ahead with their boundaries and their their sixes or whatever. Everybody, Bhutto, 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 the word. You know, it is. I was trying to write a book, and I said that that is the day when the Bengali leadership decided that this man is not coming here again. This is my impression because I saw it. You know, bonfires are being lit all across. You know, the Bengalis have this thing about lighting small fires in order to celebrate. You know, in the Alam and Aftab Gul were at it, it was sixes and fours, everything. Very weak Sri Lankan attack. And then this man walks in, my God. Miraj Muhammad Khan and the others, they were all with Bhutto, yes. But the People's Party is Bhutto's creation. You know, there was a lot of talk about Bhutto going into either Pashani's NAB, National Awami Party, or the West Pakistani, Mahmood Ali Kasuri, etc., who eventually then subsequently became members of the Pakistan People. No, that was Bhutto's show, you see. Nothing should be taken away from him. Nothing should be taken away from Bhutto. The only thing is that one could not anticipate at the time that his lust, shall we say, or his, I won't call it lust is a bad word really. It's not very complimentary. But Bhutto had this thing about power. And it is all wrong to say that he engineered the separation of Pakistan. No, they were going away in any case. 6-point plan had been put out by Mujib. They felt very, very left out in the system which Pakistan had inherited and then engineered here. So Bhutto Sahib had nothing to do. And maybe he thought, maybe in his mind he thought that this facilitates me. Because, you know, there is, I must point out to you now, because many people will remember this, my age at least. Bhutto Sahib suffered from a certain unease because he had managed to win about 50% of the seats or 55% of the seats in West Pakistan. At the time, parity, they were equal number of seats. Whereas Mujib had gone on for about 160 seats out of 165. So you see, if you analyze his first statement after the results had been declared, "Udhar tum, idhar hum." Now that was then at the time. Subsequently, when Pakistan broke up, they said that this was Bhutto's game plan: that you take over power there, declare independence, and I shall do the same here. That's wrong. Bhutto was just trying to, sort of satisfy himself that, look, maybe I haven't got the same majority as Mujib has had, but I am equal to him. And Mujib did not initiate that contact. Bhutto Sahib said, "Udhar tum, idhar hum." Bhutto wanted to be number one himself all the time. And I don't think Bhutto Sahib was very happy with how many seats he had won in West Pakistan and the number of seats that Mujib had. I think that he felt, with justification, that his path to power was blocked by Mujib's almost single-handed, I mean, 160 out of 64 out of, because Nurul Amin lost, Raja Tridev, I think 2 seats were given up, and the rest all went to me. So that was a sort of a referendum. It was a declaration of independence. And he was a very astute leader, and he knew and he'd done his homework. Probably, now let me recount to you an incident which should not be taken as a criticism. In his 70 Clifton residence, I'd gone there. We were having a cricket camp. Pakistan team was going somewhere, and I was also to go there. So Bhutto Sahib asked me what I thought about Jinnah. Now I knew my Mr. Bhutto. This is after the election. Now this is God's truth that I'm telling you. I have nothing to garner out of it. You see, it might take away something from Bhutto instead of, sort of adding to what he has done. I consider him to be a great leader. So he asked me what I thought of Jinnah. Now I knew my Mr. Bhutto. I said I cannot cross any certain limits when I speak out in praise of other things. I said, sir, a great parliamentarian. Then he pushed me. He said, you remember any of his speeches? Oh yes. Like a fool, I recalled only that speech which spoke out loud in terms of Jinnah's intent to create Pakistan. He said, you talk of a united India, something to this effect, and keep autonomy or something, political power in the face of an irreversible religious majority would be neither here nor there. I just summed up Mr. Jinnah's remarks, and this is God's truth. And I am the number one admirer of Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto. He at once said to me, oh, so what about us then in the face of this irreversible Bengali majority? This is honest to God. You will not find a more loyalist than I am myself. But this is what Bhutto Sahib said to me. It did not strike me at that time. What is he saying? Because by that time, Yahya Khan had ordered his troops into Bangladesh, and I had gone to Karachi. So Bhutto Sahib, Bhutto probably realized that the practicalities of this 1400 month, of managing a country with two wings, two different languages, and so many other things and differences. Probably he realized that it was difficult. Now Bhutto Sahib won about 75 seats. He had 155. So the statement Bhutto Sahib said, Udar tum, idhar hum. He tried to come up to the same level. Idhar hum wali tum, idhar hum, udar tum. This was then interpreted incorrectly by his opponents and said that Bhutto was trying to tell him that, look, we have come into power, we will come into power here, we'll have our own country, and you go ahead with all. But this was absolutely misplaced. I tell you, this is absolutely misplaced. And Bhutto had one thing, he had charisma. There is no question about it. Malay Ghulam Jilani, Asma Jahangir's father, he used to, it was open house there, and I used to go there very frequently. After the races or after playing cricket, I would go to Jilani Sahab's house and then talk about it. One day I went there, and he said, when I tried to get up and leave, he said, oh, don't go away, Bhutto is coming. This is about the 8th or 9th of November, 1968 or something. Yes, that's what it is. In Jilani Sahab's house, on the main boulevard. I said, Acha. Then I just waited. And in he walked. He was wearing this light fawn suit. And believe me, I belong to the age of great charismatic leaders. I tell you, the moment he walked in, it was all over. I became infatuated with him. And even at times when he did things where he could have behaved differently and done better. Bat signing controversy in England, when I was there in 1971. Oxfam came up with a plan to have a bat signed by both teams, right, for charity. And I reacted. And honest to God, Bhutto Sahib did not ring me. People said that he had rung you. No, he didn't. He never asked me. On impulse, you see. I have all my life been acting on impulse. I said, no, I'm not going to sign it. Oh, the Archbishop of Canterbury had sponsored the whole thing. It was so. I said, no, I'm not signing.
Why would you not sign it?
I said, I'm not signing it because Pakistan is one country. The money, the proceeds from this auction will go out to aid the rebels in East Pakistan. I was People's Party. I was West Pakistani. Please try and appreciate that. So I said, no, I'm not doing it. Although Tariq Ali and all the others, they were on the other side. And more than anything, I think Mr. Bhutto influenced that decision. It was on an impulse. And, well, it took the whole press by storm, because I went to the press box and I said, it is incorrect to say that the entire Pakistan team has signed this. I am a part of the team, I am playing in this test match, and I am not signed it. Although Mr. Masood Salahuddin is a very fine man, manager of the team. He came to me and he said, what are you doing? I said, I've done what I've done. And I was quite, but then Bhutto Sahab rang me in England, in that hotel where we were staying. And he was not in power then, he was a much more, he was a kinder man at that time. I cannot be, I do not hold myself responsible, because the Miraj Muhammad Khans of those days, you see, and the other people, they were around him, Hafiz Pirzada and all the others. I was a nobody, so I am not culpable. And yes, you are absolutely right. Mr. Bhutto was a changed man once he came into office and came into power. And never for a moment have I, during our conversation today, have I said or claimed that Bhutto was a Democrat. No, he wasn't. So then what about it? It doesn't mean that if somebody is not well versed in the principles of Western political democracy, that he can't be a Castro is not a Democrat. I mean, look at most of the third world leadership, take away Nehru and one or two others. Gaddafi was not a Democrat. So Bhutto Sahab was not a Democrat. I am not going to go on the defensive. You asked me about him. I tell you that the most profound, if profound is the word I am looking for, influence on my life, and I've been through, I've played cricket and done other things as well, was Zulfiqar Ali.